Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in once again to the Rad Movement YouTube. I am Robbie Rapole, and with me, as sometimes, not always, the chat. And today we have a special guest from the IOCDF, yes. I'm very bad with these acronym things. And Chad will explain that in a minute, what that all stands for. Lord, Mr. Sir, Kindness, Grand Gentleman, Ethan Smith is his name. So we will be sitting here talking about OCD and mental wellness and mental health and all the good things, and probably some goofy shit too, based on what I see here already. So Ethan, thank you for being with us, man.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. Just call me Bob. That's easier than all the stuff you just said. I set you up for failure.
Bob works great. That was my dad's name, so it's easy. It's easy.
Works both directions, either way. Are we shooting video too? This is awesome.
Yeah, we're recording.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we usually do a video version, and then we also do a audio only version podcast. Okay, I like that. There you go, Lord Ethan.
Hey, there goes Lord Ethan. I with a little bit of Simpsons popping through every so often. It's a crossover episode. So,
Simpsons, for sure.
So I was just telling Chad. So as with my tattooing, when I tattoo, I very seldom look at what I'm going to do that day. So I go ahead and I look at my emails or my calendar, which has the email content, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is the images. Oh, that's a little blurb. All right, cool. So I'm going to create this for you. So as with the way my brain works, I really, I'm kind of like a third wheel here because Chad set all this up. So I came in kind of blind, and I love that shit, man, because I get to like really learn people from conversation. So,
oh yeah.
My apologies for being ignorant on things involving you and the things you do, but I feel like it's a great way for us to really like get to know you as the audience can get to know you on the same. And I'm just a little all over the place all the time. You know, I've done the gym today, and I've bought way more resin than I ever needed. And then I poured a bunch of resin on some cabinets, and so, you know, I'm living life. And then I jumped in my pool because I was sweaty. So, you know, that's who I am.
No, that's awesome. I came in blind too. I've been crazy busy in the best way possible. So I'm super stoked to be here. I know nothing either, so we can learn together.
Love it.
I will just brag for a second. This is the only tattoo I have. It's a Cookie Crisp. No, it's a birthmark, but for when I like 10 years ago, I raised my arm and there was this little kid. He's like, "Is that a tattoo of a Cookie Crisp?" And I was like, "Cool, I'm going to use that forever."
So when you get your first tattoo, if you haven't yet, it needs to be a Cookie Crisp.
It needs to be a Cookie Crisp.
I would love to do it because, you know, I love cookies, love Cookie Crisp, love cartoons.
Let's do it.
You know, so
you can't see what you got, the food beard.
Oh yeah, so I do have a food beard. It says good food, but it's spelled out in the shape of all kinds of food.
What's your favorite food?
Oh, so well, the tasty kind is my favorite.
I'm with you.
You know, cheese and pepperoni are at the top of the list. You know, peanut butter and sweet things.
Heart healthy food.
Yeah, absolutely, heart healthy food. Yeah, that's why I'm so dedicated to the gym and this lifestyle shift. You know, because I enjoy the tasty things. But
I went to the gym once. It hurt. Go ahead.
Yeah, it does, and that's the weird thing. You know, I always tell people, just because the gym hurts doesn't mean it's not helping, but it hurts.
I walk. I used to run, and then my knee gave out, so I just walk now.
See, running. I just got my running leg because I don't know if you know, I'm an amputee.
Okay.
So I just got my running leg about 6-8 weeks ago. And I went for a run for the first time outside on Saturday, and that was really cool. So, you know, and it's funny because I'm like, yeah, I'm running, and people are like, I have 2 legs, and I'm gonna do that. And I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing enough. So it's kind of funny how we all kind of have this perception of not doing enough, not being good enough, all these things, which I kind of wanted to segue into who you are and what you do, because we just kind of did a little bit of fun fluff there. But like, let's get to the meat of it. Like, I want to know who Ethan is and what he does. went to help?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, my name is Ethan. I do two things. Former actor, current filmmaker. Fun fact about Ethan, I was the first victim on Dexter.
I didn't
Shut
know
the
that.
fuck up.
Yeah, I was his
love
first
it.
victim. Yep.
How did he kill you?
He interesting, same way in the kill room, but because it was in the pilot episode and they didn't know what they were doing yet, they didn't saran wrap me. They duct taped me down, and he wore a saran wrap mask. And I remember after we finished shooting that scene, they yelled cut, and he's like, "Why am I wearing the mask? I'm the badass." So then they said, "Well, maybe we should put saran wrap on the victims, and you don't do anything." And so it changed after I died. But
And so, what did you do that got you on Dexter's kill list?
I was a serial rapist.
Oh.
Yeah, which was great for dating. When people Googled me, it was super awkward. Yeah, I was a serial rapist that killed his victims during the act, and yeah, he didn't like that, so he killed me.
Well, I mean, kudos to Dexter. I'm sorry that you have this persona that isn't real. So has that spilled over into real life for you ever?
Being a serial rapist? No.
No, like, has people ever been like, that fucking guy, he's the rapist from Dexter?
Occasionally. I mean, when I was acting, I did a fair amount of stuff. I'm not famous or anything, but I was in I Love You, Man, and I was in Dexter and CSI Miami and a bunch of different stuff, right? So I would get recognized occasionally, but I stopped acting when my OCD got really, really bad and I got knocked out of life. And now I'm in writing, producing, directing. But the other half of my life, and I think the reason that I'm here, is because I'm a national advocate for the International OCD Foundation, or the IOCDF, which simply means,
when you say it like that.
I've been saying it for like 8 years. It's not your fault.
Okay, cool. Dude, in the fucking introduction, I'm like, I know shit. Chad, help me.
I should have said it's IGDUF. It's just one word. It's not even letters. It's just IGDUF. Yeah. So no, but all that simply means national advocate for IOCDF simply means that I have OCD and I won't stop talking about it until everybody has access to treatment that's affordable, accessible, and effective. And because my story is a little crazy, everybody has their own story, and mine with OCD is pretty intense. And so, my whole thing is I don't want anybody to go through what I went through, and to let them know that there's help and hope, and that if I can get better, they can too. And so, got filmmaking, and then the other half of my life is OCD advocacy. And it's honestly, beyond filmmaking, what I was put on this earth to do is speak about this as much as possible.
All right, and you do go into your story a bit in Uncovering OCD, the documentary that came out not too long ago. Would you mind going into a little bit about it here so that our viewers know a little bit about it?
You're in my brain. I was about to ask.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, I mean, I was born with OCD as early as I can remember. I was worried about death and fear and had a lot of worries and neuroses. And, there's question about whether you're born with it or not. They know that it's genetic to a certain extent. Usually a parent has it, a grandparent has it, and so forth. But as early as I can remember, I was worried. I remember my first sort of OCD obsession was they had these big flies at my elementary school or kindergarten, and I was afraid that if I swallowed one, my head would explode. It was completely random, and I have no clue why. It just was in my head. So as I grew up and got older, but in my younger years, my OCD was pretty what I call traditional, which simply means that when people hear about OCD, it's counting or checking or symmetry or things like that, right? Obsessions and compulsions that at least the media portrays as often. I wasn't hand washing per se, but there was a lot of things that I was doing in terms of checking and counting and things like that. As I got older and into high school, my OCD shifted to health anxiety. Back then it was called hypochondria, but I was constantly afraid I was sick. So a headache was a brain tumor and a fever was meningitis. I carried 3 thermometers with me around at all times. I took my temperature upwards of 100 times a day because I was constantly afraid of, oh my gosh, what if I die? What if I get this illness and I die? And all this. Feel free to interrupt me anytime.
No, you're good.
No, dude, I'm really taking it in. I'm actually quite intrigued by this.
Went to college for 3 months, dropped out because I thought I had a brain tumor. OCD again reared its ugly head. In my 20s, did my best to function. I mean, I had a successful acting career, but my world was only so big. I sort of operated inside of a box, and every time I got to the ceiling, I got knocked back down. So I was in my 20s. I was afraid to go. I was living in Florida. I was afraid to go out to Los Angeles because I was afraid of leaving my parents. I was afraid they were going to die. I was afraid I was going to die. My OCD really was quite ramped up at that point, but I was able to maneuver sort of within my world. And then a series of unfortunate events happened with relationships and family. And when I was 30 or 31, the floor just fell out from under me, and I became completely unable to function. So I was laying in my parents' guest bedroom. I was unable to eat, unable to drink. I lost 100 pounds. If you're watching, I clearly found most of it, but because I don't go to the gym. But and the OCD had really morphed because it shifts, and it had changed to the self-harm. I was actually afraid that I was going to accidentally hurt myself. What if I accidentally what if I accidentally kill myself? What if I accidentally swallow pills? So I was afraid to move because I was afraid if I moved that I would accidentally kill myself. And that was sort of the beginning of a really intense journey, right? To get better. The backstory of that is I was diagnosed with OCD at the age of 14. I went to treatment, meaning I went to see psychologists that said they treated OCD for 17 years before I found the right treatment that treats OCD right? So by the time
how did you not give up?
That's a great question. I think by the time I reached the right treatment, I was pretty hopeless and ready to give up.
Okay.
I was probably the most depressed I'd ever been, and just confused and hopeless. And when I met the clinicians that said, "Oh, we can help you," I didn't believe them. I was basically like, "Fuck off," because like every 10 other therapists prior to that told me we can help you, and nobody could. And I'll get into the right treatment in a minute, what it is, how it works, all that stuff. So by the time I got there, and by the way, I tried everything, did regular therapists. Everybody does talk therapy, doesn't work. Talk therapy, if you have OCD and you're in talk therapy, leave, stop giving them money. They're stealing your money. I'm sure they're not doing it on purpose, but that is not the treatment for OCD. But after that didn't work, I went to energy healers, I went to Reiki, I went to past life regression, I went to, like, I was just, if somebody had said, sacrifice a goat, drink the blood, and I would have done it, because you're just in so much pain and you're so desperate. But I found the right treatment, and because I was so sick at that point, it was really hard for me to embrace it. It's not an easy treatment. It's not like going to a therapist, feeling better every day. It's really intense. So I ended up in residential program in Boston. And I was there for 2.5 months, still really struggled to get better. And finally, my entire team just figured the best thing for me was to be on my own out on the street and just have to put life in front of the OCD. And so I got kicked out of residential after doing some really crazy stuff, some compulsions to give into my OCD, and ended up living in a really, really just destitute house, locked myself in my room. And scared to leave. For 6 days, I didn't leave the bed. I was going to the bathroom in the bed. I was just terrified because I was so afraid that I was going to hurt myself. But I had all the therapy, right? I had as much therapy as you could possibly have, all the right therapy. I just needed a kick to flip the switch. And so that kick was like, well, if Ethan can't indulge his OCD, because if he indulges it, he'll die because no one's feeding him, no one's paying his bills, no one's taking care of him, then maybe he'll choose life over his OCD and start kicking in with the skills and tools. And that's what happened. I realized that I was going to die if I didn't get out of bed and do something. And suddenly the fear of what if I hurt myself paled in comparison to the fact that if I didn't do anything, I was actually going to die. So I was like, you know what? Let me roll the dice here, take a gamble. I know my brain is screaming, don't do it, you're going to get hurt. But everybody's been telling me that that's OCD. Let me take a chance, because if I have a chance, then I have a chance. And maybe there's a 50% chance I will die, but a 50% chance I'll survive. This way, I'll die. So got out of bed and, continued in therapy and slowly started getting better. And within 8 months, said to my therapist and everybody, can I move to LA? And took off and went to LA for the first time at 31 or 32, and was out there for 8 or 9 years, and living an amazing, beautiful, full life. Not perfect, but OCD wasn't in control. OCD wasn't in the driver's seat.
Wow, dude, that's fuck. that's a whirlwind, man. Like just trying to imagine like what you actually went through, like that's the laying in bed for 6 days, no food, no water, nothing.
No, I was too scared. And you have to realize, like, this is like sort of a last resort therapy. It was an intervention. When I talk about it, I don't want anybody listening or watching that has OCD or that's a child that thinks, oh my God, I need to be like left to die. That is not the case, right? But the reason I tell my story is because like it should never have gotten that far. I should have gotten treatment and never been that sick to begin with.
Right.
You know, but the reality of it is that the other piece of it was I'd really never separated from my parents. Emotionally, I was a 5 or 6 year old. Now, yes, I dated and worked, but emotionally, remember, I was scared to travel, scared to leave my parents. And so the idea of being left alone in a city, not being able to have them or talk to them, it's like leaving a 5-year-old. I mean, it was absolutely the scariest thing ever. And I was like, well, I'm never going to survive this. And suddenly, you know, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, as most painful things are. That's where all growth happens, right? It's like the tragedy. I always like to say, you know, if I could grow sitting on a beach in Fiji getting laid and drinking beer, then like that would be amazing, you know? But
hey guys, finish your blunt.
no, that's just not how it works. You're not gonna
and so like you said that you know the pain is where the growth happens. I just rolled my eyes, not at you, at the fact that fuck, I hate that you're right. You know, it's like, oh, I don't want that to be true, because I've been in this weird spot. I've been feeling a lot of growing pains lately. We've been talking about this and stuff. And I'm just feeling very hopeless. Dude, I have a fucking amazing life. You know what I'm saying? But like, I get this weird hopelessness and you know, and then you get impatient with goals and life and stuff. So, you know, it's interesting because that's the one thing the universe has kept throwing at me lately. Hey, bro, that pain you're feeling, yeah, that's growth, bitch. And I'm like, no.
I don't want to grow anymore. I just want to be comfortable.
Right. And I did a Facebook Live video from the gym, and I was sitting there doing my fucking cardio, and I called it growing pains and boundaries, because like, dude, I'm learning a lot of that, you know, even though we all know those things, right? Like we all know to a certain degree, growing pains are real, boundaries are a thing. But like when you're faced with the actual act of doing it, holy shit, you know, and then the fear of, well, if I do this, then everything's going to fall apart. So why don't I not do this? You know, why don't I just get scared and run away? And then of course you run and hide and hide and hide and hide. And then what ends up happening, it finds you and then it explodes.
Yeah, so, the fear just gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
Like my OCD did back 2 years ago when I finally found ERP. Somebody that taught me ERP.
No, what is ERP?
Exposure with response prevention.
Okay.
So that is the thing. Go ahead.
You learn from a therapist, from a practitioner, or is it just something
I didn't even know about it. Like I went through all of my harm and health and pure OCD in my head. And then it finally spilled over that night at the haunt, and every episode that I had ever had boiled into one. And that episode, even with exposure with response prevention, lasted almost a year until I was finally able to break it with help from Dr. Sam Rogers. Shout out Dr. Sam Rogers at Roanoke Health.
And so what did you find, Ethan, that you know was your effective therapy?
Same. It's exposure response prevention. So it's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the umbrella, and under there exists exposure and response prevention, which is a very specific treatment for OCD, right? So it's the gold standard. It's very, very effective. OCD actually is one of the most treatable mental illnesses. The problem is the majority of therapists, 90% or so, don't know how to do ERP, and they think because they had a half day of OCD in their master's program that they can treat it. So they get out of school, they go, yeah, I can treat OCD. And then they do talk therapy and say, what happened to you as a child? Let's pinpoint where this came from, which is literally the worst thing you can do, right? So exposure response prevention is basically this. It's exposing yourself to your biggest fears, whatever they are, however they manifest, right? So I was afraid of self-harm. There's contamination, there's religious scrupulosity, you know, fear of going to hell, fear of not praying enough, fear I'm going to harm my parents, friends, or family. Fear of there's sexual intrusive thoughts, like what if I accidentally rape somebody? What if I'm molesting children? You know, blasphemous thoughts. Like there's all kinds of symptoms and subtypes of OCD that the media doesn't talk about. And those symptoms and subtypes are probably more prevalent than what you hear that are that are probably more prevalent than what you always see in the movies, which is hand washing. And I'm not invalidating hand washing. It's just as painful, but people don't talk about like, oh my God. Well, OCD attacks the thing you care about most. So like, you know, if you're a teacher, it's like, oh my God, what if I had the thought, what if I want to molest my children? What if I want to molest my kids? What if I want to throw this baby over the balcony? I just had the thought. What if the thought's true? What if that means I want to do it, right? Those and OCD thoughts are no different than anybody else's thoughts. They just go on a loop.
Yeah.
They go on a loop and we attach emotions to them. And suddenly if we feel it and we think it, then it must be true. Then it must mean I want to do it. But I don't want to do it because it's ego. The term is ego dystonic. Yeah. So the term is ego dystonic, which means it goes against your values. So most people you will find is whatever their OCD is, it's attacking the thing that they love the most, which is interesting because mine was self-harm, which tells me that I love myself more than anything. So yeah. So back to ERP, exposure, expose yourself to the fear. In other words, if I'm going to harm myself, let's say I have a fear of swallowing pills. So one of my first exposures was take a bottle of my pills and hold it up to my mouth because my OCD will tell me that I swallowed the pills, even though I can see them and they're right there. OCD is all about not accepting uncertainty. It's the inability to cope with uncertainty. Now, everything in life has uncertainty. If we thought about crossing the street, you know, there's a chance we'll get hit by a car, but we're willing to live with that uncertainty because we have somewhere to go. We're living toward our values. If we actually, so there's uncertainty in everything we do. We have very little we can control in life, as you both know, right? So OCD is really this need for certainty. It wants to know for sure that whatever you're afraid of is not going to happen. Whatever it is, we have to protect. It's just a faulty alarm. There's a tiger behind every bush, right? So we have to avoid the tiger and make sure everybody is safe. So exposure is exposing yourself to the fear. But the trick, because exposure therapy happens for phobias. They do exposure therapy, fear of snakes, fear of elevators, flying, we're going to get you up an airplane and so forth. Response prevention is the key. So response prevention is inevitably before you've been treated with OCD, you've had an obsessive thought, and then what's happened and you get a really uncomfortable feeling, which is the anxiety, okay? Then to get rid of that thought and get rid of that feeling, you engage in what's called a compulsion. Now that compulsion can manifest in a variety of ways. It could be hand washing, it could be ruminating and evaluating and thinking and checking and doing. And for me, I would check pills over and over again. I was even getting multiple CAT scans a week to make sure that my brain was okay because I was so afraid I'd accidentally damage my head. What were some of your compulsions?
I have checking, and then I have the mental rituals where
Checking.
I have check a door 3 sets of 3.
Okay.
Check the back door, check the stove, make sure the stove's off. Just check everything to make sure everything's good. And then I had the mental rituals where I had harm OCD, and specifically last time I had it, I didn't have a kid before. When I had my kid and I had this episode, like you said, it attacks the thing that you love the most. So in my head, I'm like, what if you think about doing something about your kid? What if you think about it? And in my head, instead of to preempt the thought, I would think about killing myself instead. So instead of, I wouldn't even be thinking about it. And then I would be, oh, better think about killing yourself so you don't think about hurting Cora over and over again.
Wow.
And then that tripled into, what if you start hearing things? What if you start hearing things? It was a whole fucking mess. And
it's a rabbit hole.
The lowest I'd ever been. It was horrible. And that's when I found the IOCDF, and I found my support group, and I found my doctor, and I was able to finally figure out ERP and get my tool set to know whenever it starts flaring up again, I need to do the ERP to get it to cool back down.
So the response prevention is the fact that compulsions actually work at first, which is why you start to do them, right? If I get my hands dirty and I feel like, oh, they're dirty, and I wash my hands, guess what? They feel clean. The anxiety goes away. I feel better. But the thought comes back, oh gosh, what if they're dirty? I'll wash my hands again. The more you compulse, the less it works. Until you do it over and over again, you're stuck in an 18, 24-hour cycle of compulsing just to get that feeling to go away. And what's interesting is like, what's so painful about OCD is there's this 2 parts of your brain, right? So like somebody who's completely psychotic doesn't know that they're psychotic.
Right.
So somebody who's psychotic is like, I'm going to kill this person and I know I am. Somebody with OCD is having a thought that they don't want to have. They're aware that they're having it, but it's scaring the crap out of them. Logically, they know that the thought is illogical, but at the same time, the OCD is so convincing that we're unwilling to live with the uncertainty that something might happen, right? So there's a part of our brain that goes, that's ridiculous. You're not going to kill your kid. You're not a murderer. But then the OCD goes, yeah, but what if? What if there's a 1% chance? Like, I'm not willing to live with that 1%. So I'm going to do everything I can to protect my kid or whatever it is from myself, because the OCD just plants those seed of doubts. That's why it's called the doubting disease.
Yep.
So it's really, there's this war going on in your brain because you feel the pain. You go, this is ridiculous. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I can't stop doing this.
Right. And then you get the shame for even thinking that you would think that. So you have the anxiety,
exactly,
the shame, and the guilt. You just hate yourself until you work your way through it.
Yeah. So response prevention is the way you expose yourself to the fear. So my hands are dirty, just for simplicity's sake. Hands are dirty. Normally I would wash my hands. Instead, I'm going to prevent the response, which means I'm not going to wash my hands. I'm going to sit with the discomfort and anxiety. And that anxiety is going to go up, and it's going to spike, and it's going to hit a fever pitch. And then it's going to start to go down on its own without me having compulsed, right? And then you start to notice it goes down on its own, and you keep repeating that over and over and over again. And it's called habituation, which means as you sit with the anxiety, you make room for it, you let it be there, you let the thoughts be there, you make room for them. You don't have to like them, you don't invite them in for tea, but you just say, hey, yep, there you are. Okay, that's nice. We don't want to thought suppress. We don't want to try to get rid of. Don't think of the pink elephant. That doesn't work. We're thinking of pink elephants. And so the more we just expose ourselves and then prevent the compulsion, be willing to sit with the uncertainty, sit with the anxiety, and let that go down, the more you do that, everything starts to get quieter and quieter. The OCD gets quieter and quieter until you can manage it successfully. The perfect analogy that you'll love is it's exactly like working out. You go to the gym. Like if I went to the gym tomorrow, I can't look like Mark Wahlberg in one day. It's just impossible. Right. And we go to therapy and we want to feel better in one day. It's just not possible. It's systematic consistency. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to pick up a weight. And guess what? The next day it's going to fucking hurt. It's going to hurt. I'm going to be sore. And it might take me a week or 2 weeks to finally get to a place where I'm lifting this weight and I feel like, man, I got it. And as soon as you got it, what does the trainer do? Pops on another set of weights and you're like, oh my God, right? That's ERP. You start small with a little something that you challenge. And as soon as you get to a place where it starts to feel good, they up the ante on you, right? So as opposed to like holding a bottle of pills, then they may have you put all the pills in your mouth, right? And like, or I mean, I'm sure you have some examples as well, but it's called a hierarchy. You start small, you build up higher, higher, higher. And it's no different than working out. The more you go, the more consistently you are, the better you get and the quicker you get. And the more you embrace it. Doesn't mean you'll be perfect. You're going to have days when you're compulsed. You're going to have weeks where you compulsed, days when you skip the gym, days where you eat like shit, right? But you don't let those set you back. You keep moving forward, and over time, you get better.
Well, you want to let them set you back. And that's the thing, and it's so impressive to be able to stay diligent, with the workout of the brain or the body. You know what I'm saying? Because how many times do I, tell my girlfriend, God, I'm so fat. And she's like, you fucking kidding me? You're buff as shit. I'm like, ugh, I'm gross. And, I've been doing this forever and I won't stop. And it's like, okay, well, remember, you're the guy that's doing it. You're actually doing it. And it's so interesting to hear you speak on, the process of it, because, it's like the gym and it's also like your diet and it's like, your relationships. It's the same thing. Take little bits, bite by bite, and just, you eat the whole thing sooner or later by adding more onto the plate. So it's very interesting to hear how simple the breakdown is.
It's simple, but everyone, I've yet to meet somebody with OCD that isn't intelligent. OCD sufferers have three things in common, and this is studied: above average intelligence, above average creativity, and a vivid imagination. And OCD loves logic. OCD in itself is illogical. So OCD wants us to apply logic. We've got to figure it out. It's a puzzle that we can solve. And the smarter you are, the more you're going to sit there and be like, no, you don't know the answer, Mr. Therapist. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out a way around this. And that just gets you more and more in the cycle. There's no solution because it's completely illogical, right? So you're absolutely right. It is so easy. Like the secret to therapy is listen and say yes. But instead of being offered a phone and say, make a phone call, and we go, thanks, and we make a phone call, an OCD sufferer will go, but how does the phone work? Can I open this up? Now, where does this beams to a satellite, and what does this chip do? And let's take, you have a million, just use the phone. Just take the phone and use it. Trust me, right? But like, you know, so this is, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'll use an old, perfect, same age. I'm going to use an old reference, Superman 3, which was the worst Superman ever, but he has to fight himself. Remember that scene? That's exactly what OCD is. OCD is using your own brain against you. So it's an even matchup at the beginning before treatment. It's using all your intellect, all your powers, all your talent against you, right? So you have to be able to outsmart it, but outsmarting it is really just letting it be there and let it do its thing. So the other analogy that I love is the bully analogy, which essentially OCD is a giant bully, okay? And if you're in middle school, I know I was bullied in middle school because of my weight. So, you know, when the bully comes around, yeah, for sure. When the bully comes around, he's like, yo, fat ass, do whatever, you know, your mom's so, whatever it is, and you cry and you make a big, what is he going to do? He's going to come back and keep bullying you because he's getting the response that you want. But if he comes up and he's like, yo, I'm so fat, I'm going to sit on your mom and kill her, you know, whatever it is, I don't know. But like you start making fun of yourself, now you've stripped his powers away and he's got nothing to say to you. And that's what happens with OCD and exposure response prevention. You strip OCD's powers away where you go, you know what? You're right. Maybe that will happen. And guess what? I don't care. I'm willing to live with the uncertainty and I'm going to go live my life. And it's so hard to do. But the more you do that, the bully stops bullying you because you've stripped its powers away.
Man, it's almost like you do this OCD stuff or something. I really love the way that I'm fully involved in this because like I didn't realize I was going to be learning so much about all of it, you know, OCD and the therapies and the simplicity of the solution. And usually that's life, right? Like the solution is simple.
The KISS, keep it simple. Student.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my apprentices and the young artists in the shop all the time, I'm like, dude, look, if y'all motherfuckers don't simplify it, y'all gonna fucking ruin your life. You know, just shut the fuck up. I don't care how the phone works. Just do the tattoo. Like, do the tattoo. Stop wondering and make a tattoo. And they're like, but shut up, make a tattoo. So it's interesting to see how life is
all interconnected.
Yeah, synchronistic and all that shit, you know. And it's so great to have this blind date go on and like, you know, we hit it off and we might sleep together. You know?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm all in for new experience.
So, you know, my chick's down, you know, Chad's always here for whatever we need, you know.
Fluff.
Bring your water.
Fluff. But yeah, dude, so what are you into now with the IOCDF?
There you got it.
I did. It rolls nice. So you said you're an advocate, so that means you are someone that people can reach out to and you therapize?
No, I don't do. I definitely don't do therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinician. I simply lived experience, my story. You know, my role at the IOCDF has grown. I started just speaking at their international conferences in 2012 and 13 when I got better. And then I gave their keynote address in 2014 in Los Angeles. Then I became a spokesperson and went around. And then, so essentially when they have media opportunities, when they need talks or, you know, publicity, news outlets, PR, radio, things like that, interviews, I'll get called. But I also do a lot of programming through the IOCDF. I host a couple live streams, write a bunch of articles, and we're always, you know, ultimately we're creating a ton of opportunities for other people to advocate. So, you know, a lot of people think, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, so you work at the IOCDF. I'm like, no, I don't work there. It's all volunteer. It's, you know, I don't work at the IOCDF. But essentially my role as an advocate is really to just continue. I'm community first. I've always said that I'm community first. The IOCDF has afforded me an amazing platform for me to, you know, to yell basically and tell my story and support other people. But for me, the community comes first, and whatever I have to do to make sure that people don't have to suffer like I did, you know, for as long as I did. And it's getting better. I think it's down to 10 years now. So awesome. But I joke, but in all kidding aside, I see younger and younger kids, teenagers that are getting treatment in 2 to 3 years. And granted, that's still a long time, but it's amazing to see. I always make the analogy, it'd be like going to a doctor for a foot problem and taking 14 years to find a podiatrist. Like, it seems insane, right?
Right.
You go to the doctor, you have a thing, you're like, go see the specialist. But, OCD it's just, there's a lot of destigmatization that needs to be done, especially in diversity and diverse marginalized communities, Black, Asian, Hispanic, I mean, all of them, and faith communities, there's just so much stigma, and definitely outside the US, people don't talk about mental illness, so we have a lot of work to do, but that's what we're trying to do, is just advocate and speak and talk as much as possible. What's cool is like you, my mediums have sort of converged. So my filmmaking and my advocacy work has sort of come together to where I'm starting to create content for both OCD and mental health, as well as entertainment. So it's been really exciting to see both worlds collide.
Isn't that nice? Yeah, because like I do tattoos, but like you've seen it, you've experienced it. There's a healing element that comes with a tattoo from a tattoo artist that actually gives a fuck. And that's been really fun to be that, and to show folks that there is a healing that comes with this pain that we're doing here, in a lot of aspects. Even if it's just a beautiful tattoo you're getting that makes you feel better about yourself, or if you're celebrating, the passing of someone, or there's so many ways. I've got so many people that are like, man, I had the worst fucking week and I almost canceled, and I showed up, and I'm really glad I'm here. And it's just really cool to be able to see that. Like, and then, the rad movement stuff, I've been able to make that and then kind of just be like, hey, tattoo world, here you go. And we're a big group of tough fucking idiots who got picked on way too much, didn't get enough love from ourselves and probably others, or the objects of our affection. And now we're just these weird, scared, big dudes, or these really cool people, or, these really awesome babes, and these people think that because we're in this world, we're just so something we're not. And we're just a big group of scared babies. And it's cool that, in my lowest times, I got to realize, hey, I actually am a motivationalist, and I need to bring the shit that helped me come out of it to the world of tattoo with my specific voice that these dudes will listen to.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And so it's cool that you're doing the same. And you just get around fucking everywhere. Like you just create all these different wonderful avenues, and it's really cool. With the Rad Paranormal, I'm honored that, the Rad name, found its way into that, because no, I'm not in that, I don't participate in running that, but yes, I'm an advocate for you doing that, because when people are like, the paranormal stuff and blah, 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 I'm like, actually I have a homie and he's really cool, and he doesn't run around making fake shit. He actually tries to debunk everything and find true spiritual activity. And that's what I love about what you do. And, then your spirit and your soul and all that, it all comes together. And, you share a lot about the OCD, and I think that's really awesome. And we talk about this in every episode that we do OCD talk. I used to think Chad was just this weird fucking kid that like needed to be like manhandled emotionally to fucking wake up and come out of it. No, the kid was fucking terrified. And this big bully asshole tattooer was scaring him even more.
Well, that's the misconception.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chad.
I was gonna say that's before I found my ERP.
That's the misconception, though, right? That's the misconception. It's just stop worrying about that. Stop doing that. Stop being a pussy. Like,
talk to us. Stop sitting in the corner being quiet, man. And it's like, oh, we're not talking to you, right? We're not making you comfortable. We're not acknowledging the fact that there's something else here, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing,
Well, the analogy that I always use is how many times you go up to a diabetic and be like, stop being a bitch, make your pancreas work.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not a thing. It's not a thing.
I mean, you don't do that. You don't go to someone with OCD and be like, stop being so weak. Like, OCD is a disease, not a decision. It's not something we choose, to do. And so, there's ways to manage, and we have choices once we have those tools and skills. But before that, it's a disorder and disease, just like cancer, just like diabetes, just like anything else.
Wow.
Yeah.
But to your point, man. Oh, go ahead, Chad. Do you have something to say?
No, I was just gonna say, like, whenever I did become, I did become a OCD advocate with the IOCDF. I did all that. Whenever I did that, I went around looking for like shirts to anything that I can do to destigmatize it. And I had to make this one. But when I went on Amazon, I was looking up OCD support shirt. I found a bunch of crap that was like, oh, obsessive Christmas disorder, obsessive coffee disorder.
Oh,
Like,
ha ha ha! Thanks, that's so funny.
Yeah, Target came out with obsessive Christmas disorder sweater a couple years ago, and we all went after them.
Yeah.
So it just, the thing is, most of it is just education. People are not looking to be malicious; they just don't know.
Right.
And if you can have compassionate conversation with them, most like, oh my God, I had no idea. Okay, now I know. You run into a few assholes that do know, and they're just looking to make money or sell their brand on Instagram or whatever. The guy that was like, yeah, celery juice cures OCD, and then we tried to have a conversation with him, and he blocked us and deleted our comment. Like, he just wasn't interested. He was just selling his juice. So it was some like doctor that has 2 million followers that went on and said, like, yeah, celery juice cures OCD, which is literally the most damaging thing you could possibly say. Because I would have, at my worst, I would have bought that. I would have gone and bought it and done it and all that stuff.
And then now it didn't work. So what's wrong with me? Because it didn't work. Because this guy said it worked. He has 2 million followers. He's a doctor. Holy shit! Like,
right.
Yeah, exactly. But to your point, dude, what's so fascinating about these experiences is that I used to say, like, with OCD, I was on the sidelines of life, right? So like when you're in life, and life is comprised of good and bad and happy and pain and all this stuff, but you've come from that place of sort of being outside of life, you really are grateful for whatever shit comes your way, whatever life brings, whether it's a good day or a bad day. It doesn't mean I'm not in a bad mood or a pissy mood, or I'm not annoyed or miserable, or I feel like crying, but I can usually somewhere deep down identify like an ounce of gratitude, just because I've been on that other side of just like not being able to function at all. So like, if I'm having feelings, if I'm having a rough day, if life has busted my ass, at least I know I'm playing life. Like, that tells me that I'm in the fight. And so that's something that I'm grateful for. And that's a cool way to live. Again, I'm not a guru. I'm not able to like eliminate thought and have blissful days every day. But even at my worst, I can at least be grateful that I'm not where I was before, and I've been able to come through, even though I've had really hard times since. The other aha crazy moment, and maybe Chad can relate it a little bit to this, is this idea, this paradox or paradigm shift, that you can feel like shit and have a great day at the same time. It's kind of a weird thing, because we're humans that really go by our emotions. Well, I don't feel like this, so I'm not going to do it. I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to say it, or whatever. I'm sure how many times you not feel like going to the gym, but you go because it's your values and it's what you want to do.
Right.
And so many times, like Chad, I'm sure there's so many times that we don't feel like doing something, but we're going to do it because it's in accordance with our values, and it puts our OCD to bed. And you may not even feel better after you do it, but the feelings are irrelevant. As you said, it's about just going and doing, and over time. So it's amazing when I notice myself feeling a certain way, or thinking a certain way, and like I look back on the day and said, man, I felt like crap and I had the best day. It's really mind-blowing to know that those two things can exist at the same time.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you've witnessed it before too. Like, I've come into the shop for a bit, like we have a video to do, but I'm having a bad day, but I still come in to do the video, and it ends up being a good video.
No, I mean, and for me, it's weird because and I don't mean to be insensitive by relating my problems, OCD problems, because I feel like they're all very similar. I just feel like there's an intensity shift, from one to the next. But like, same thing. I've got so many days where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go to the shop because I got somebody waiting there to get tattooed, and you know what they want? They want a tattoo, and you know how hard it's going to be to put that tattoo together and figure it out, and it's like you worry so much, and then you start fucking lashing out at others all around you. And you're not doing this good enough. You're not doing this, and then when I shut the fuck up, get to the shop, eat my food, prepare my artwork, speak to the client, do the tattoo, a lot of the times I end up fucking crying with the client. Like, we have such a great connection, and I'm like, oh, I love you. Thank you so much for coming in. And it's like, and then at the end of the day, I sit there and I'm like, why the fuck did you act like that? You stupid piece of shit. You know, like, do you know how you made so many people feel and your little fucking tantrum? You're such a loser. And it's like, why am I talking to myself like this? I'm sorry. Yeah.
So that's the yeah, I was gonna say you might wanna talk. Oh, whoa, what was that? Sorry. You might want to introduce some self-compassion. You sound kind of angry.
I am. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. And that's one of the things I'm trying a lot of lately, and I'm having a hard time getting there, you know?
My life, since I've been successfully managing OCD, doesn't mean that I don't have thoughts, doesn't mean that I don't compulse, but OCD hasn't ruled my life. It hasn't made choices for me in, about 10 years. Doesn't mean I've had, major ups and downs. Life, when you haven't lived because of OCD, suddenly life kicks you in the ass. You go, life isn't easy, because up until then it was OCD. So I was like, once I get rid of this OCD thing, life's going to be real easy because OCD won't be in the way. And then you discover that life is fucking hard, and you're like, whoa, I didn't expect this.
And
so
then go away.
So it's man, I've been through a ton of shit, as we all have, right? Life throws a lot of crap at us, and I've definitely felt like failures. And 2.5 years ago, I went through a bankruptcy, and I went through like a major depression and just all kinds of stuff because I wasn't where I wanted to be, and I was comparing myself and all the things that we do to ourselves. But that's when I learned about self-compassion. And man, self-compassion is the other thing that completely saved my life, because everything you just described was how I spoke to myself. You're a piece of shit. You're not good enough. All that stuff in your brain. And it's funny because if anybody else said that to me, it would not be my friend. And yet that inner critic in our voice, like we hear it every day and we're like, you're right. I'm a piece of shit. How did I not know this? And then somebody's
I never fucking figured this out on my own.
And then somebody's like, dude, you got to be compassionate. That voice is full of shit. You're like, yeah, that voice is full of shit, man. I'm not listening to that voice. I'm a good person. And then the next morning, that voice goes, you're a piece of shit. You're like, you're right. I'm a piece of shit.
And you know what's funny? So one of my favorite questions to ask people, I've gotten some of like the coolest responses and like most mind-blowing facial expressions. If the voice in your head was a person, would you be its friend?
Probably not, no.
And so many people. I remember one time a cousin of mine. He's an older dude. He's got gray hair, lots and lots and lots of it. And he looked at me with like the beginner's mind on that one, and like that blew my mind. He was like, and I was like, no. So
would it be weird to be? Go ahead. No. Go ahead. I was
just saying it's just really wild. And it's just like mind blowing. I'm like, I look at dudes older than me like they got their shit together. Nope. It takes management.
Self-compassion, I described it as it was like learning Japanese backwards. It's not a language that comes natural to me.
I'm an inherently dark, angry, like negative person, and I try hard to fight that. But I also have these like wonderful, loving things. So it's
Well, I also thought that like in order to succeed, you have to beat yourself to shit. Like don't give yourself any breaks. You have to do. So I remember going to therapy, seeing my therapist. I see her once a week. I have for the last 10 years. And we were working on self-compassion. She's like, man, you just got to just be where you are right now. And I was like, I just didn't agree with it. I was like, let me give you an example. If a basketball team goes into halftime and they're 10 points down and they go into the locker room, is the coach sitting there going, we should just like sit with this experience and be okay with this, and just having fun, and just like it's cool, and like just get out there and be where you are and like just let it be there. And I'm like, no, they're like, you guys suck. You need to fucking get out there and kick their ass. And I'm like, and it works. And she's like, but they're getting out of bed. And I was like, oh.
It's about
I thought I had this brilliant analogy. She's like, but they're functioning. You're not. So you just need to like be a little gentler on yourself. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But man, self-compassion is game changing when you like allow yourself to be human and to make mistakes and to make room for, just all the shit that comes and understand that it's all, I love when my therapist said, life isn't a problem to be solved. It's a process to be experienced. And I love that quote because it is. I find myself solving life, trying to solve life all the time, but really, you know, it's just about going through, riding the wave, riding the surf, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Damn, dude, like so many times in that little speech, I felt attacked because I was like, ah, you're right. And then I'm like, oh, okay, there's a solution in that. But like, it's weird too, because like my piercer at the shop, he does tarot readings, and he had a card that came out the other day and said something about mental illness. He's like, it's not me, it's the card. Don't get mad at me. And I brushed it off, and I'm like, huh. The more I go through life, you know, was I an ADD kid? You know, do I have a splash of this and a touch of that? Probably, you know.
You know what though, man?
You know
what's funny is like, I don't like people getting stuck on labels, and I know you weren't, but
right.
like, we're all trying to just do our best. You know,
That's
who cares? Like, you know, if I need a diagnosis to move forward, then fine. But beyond that, it's like if I sit down and said to you all the mental illnesses that mental illnesses that I've been diagnosed with, you know, like if I actually thought of it, I probably would never get out of bed. But at the end of the day, like, who cares? It's
what
like,
does it matter?
I just want to live life and be productive and live toward my values. And these are the skills and tools and medications that I need to do that. Great. I'm on my way. Who cares? I don't want to put labels on it. I don't need to put labels on it, you know? And that's the other thing, you know, and I noticed what you said is we don't ever want to compare pain, you know, ever, like, you know, your stress and frustration or nerves or whatever it is about going to the shop and overwhelming nature is valid to you, and your feelings are valid. We never want to make comparisons and be like, oh, your thing, you know, I don't want to, you know, invalidate your thing because my thing is not even close. Like, you know, it's never, everybody's got their own, everybody's feelings and emotions and pains is valid to them. Doesn't matter if it sounds like, you know, I got hit by a train and I tripped over a stone. Doesn't matter what it is. That's their own reality, and we have to definitely like honor and respect that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, dude, you are a brilliant motherfucker. Like, honestly, dude, like I am loving every second of this.
Oh, thanks, dude.
I appreciate the shit out of you and like your heart and your brain, your eloquence. Like, seriously, dude, this is one of like the best, you know, surprise bonus experiences I've had in a while, man. Like, seriously.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I appreciate it. I just repeat things that other smarter people have told me, but then I just don't say that it was their thing. I just claim it as my own. So, you know, but
the concept of good artists steal, bad artists copy. So a bad artist is going to copy another artist's thing, but a good artist is going to steal from about 50 motherfuckers and make it his own. So, and there's actually a book called Steal Like an Artist that I love, outlining all of that concept. You know, because as an artist, you feel like, oh, well, you can relate, you know, filmmaking and all that. Oh, wow, I'm inspired by this. So let me take that bit of fruit and then that bit of fruit, make a fruit salad. And then you're like, this is all stolen fruit. You know, instead of realizing, holy fuck, we just made a great fruit salad. You know? So
I always feel bad for drummers, because drummers are like, has this one been done before? Is this it's like there's no new drum beats. There's no new ones. Like guitar riffs, yes. There's no new drum. It's like, oh, it's totally original. It's nobody's done this.
I hate that you're so right with that, because there's two different songs that Against Me does where the lead singer's like, I hate this stupid fucking drum beat is the one, and then the other I can't remember. But it's so fucking funny. I'm like, why are you shitting on this drummer, man? It's not even fair. And it's cool because like the drummer is like that niche group, you know, like there's a couple girls that really love the drummer, but most people love the lead singer. But that drummer, he still gets it. Yeah.
But you know, man, the pain thing, it's all perspective. Like I sit here when you're telling like, oh, I haven't been through what you went through. And I'm sitting here, I don't know your story, but I'm sitting here that you mentioned that, you know, you're an amputee. And I'm like, oh my God, my thing is nothing compared to what you've been through. You know, it's all, it's like,
right.
Like I wish that we all could see each other through each other's eyes, because we'd all be arrogant as shit. You know, we'd all be like, oh, because the way my girlfriend sees me, I don't see myself that way. And the way I see her, so it's like, I'm sitting here going, man, this guy's awesome. He's strong. He gets up. Like if I didn't, how would I feel that way? How would I manage and do that? And, you know, so it's interesting how we all see each other.
Right. It really is. And like, you know, I think it's a very similar thing in significant other relationships. dude, I think, my partner is the most beautiful, amazing, wonderful, fucking, tantalizing woman in the whole entire world, and she tells me the same. And it's like, yeah, but you're lying, you simple bitch. And she's like, yeah, you stupid fuck, you're lying to me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, yes, you are. Is it? All the things, And then the weird thing, I'll like have a really vulnerable episode where I like just kind of spill everything. A lot of the time that happens when I've drunk too much. And I'll be like, this person, I really fucking, they're so much better than me. And I look up to them. She's like, they're shit compared to you. And I'm like, what?
Dude, I say the same stuff. We're coming up on a year. I met the love of my life during COVID and fell in love during COVID. And like, I say the same thing. Sick. And I'm saying, I'm just I'm waiting for her to wake up and be like, what? She's like, she's amazing. She's phenomenal. She's brilliant. And I always laugh because if we were on a dating site, there's no way we'd match up. Like no chance. There's no, because, like I was on OkCupid and all the dating sites and the swiping, we would have like a 3% match on this thing. Cause she's an interfaith chaplain at a big private school who in her spare time is an ultra marathon and endurance athlete. I'm a chubby Jewish kid that loves to eat, and the only thing I've run is to the bathroom. So like on paper, it makes no sense whatsoever, but in life, it works beautifully. So,
Well, it's funny because those dichotomies, right? Like I was just talking to one of my best friends on the phone yesterday, and he was picking on him because he was asking me, a while ago, he was like, does Donna worship Satan? Because my chick is super goth looking. And like, she's in my phone as Donna Sunshine because she is such a fucking ray of sunshine, dude. But like, she is like a little goth looking girl, and she looks like she eats the head off of bats. She's actually got a bat head on her throat. And people are like, oh, you're so badass. I'm like, she is a marshmallow.
When I first started struggling, when I struggled with my girlfriend for the first time, she's like, oh my God, you're the most comfortable boyfriend I've ever had. At first I was like, yeah. And then I thought about her ex-boyfriends and they're all triathletes. And she literally meant I'm the most comfortable boyfriend she's ever had because they're all ripped and shredded and hard. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. She's like, no, it's a good thing. I'm like, I don't know about that.
You challenge my ego, woman. You're supposed to tell me I'm ripped as shit.
She's like, why do you always hold your shirt in front of your stomach? I'm like, because, I just do. I don't want to over-impress you,
Oh, man. It's funny because, like, I commend you on the finding love in the middle of the COVID because, we opened our tattoo shop in the middle of COVID. And it was, man, it's really odd to see, like, successful things sprouting from, the manure of COVID. Because that was, wow, that was some weird stuff. But,
it's awful, but there's silver linings for sure.
Absolutely. And, for Lord Ethan here, I mean, you're look over at you're on the throne and it's just, you're so just mighty. And I have this wonderful vision of you in my heart and in my head and now my mind's eye. So it's been wonderful to take your time today, man.
Dude, the pleasure's, you guys are awesome. The pleasure's been mine. We'll have to do it again. Where are you located?
We're in Florida. Where are you?
Oh, cool. I'm in Atlanta right now.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So you're probably like about 4 hours from us. 4 or 5.
Yeah, depending on where you are. Yeah.
I want to get my first tattoo with you. I've like already decided. I'm so into you. You're like the coolest dude.
Dude, I love it. I'm so in. We got 13 shows coming up this year. Atlanta was just done, but I know we'll be in and out of there and we'll be around there. So, dude, I would love to meet up with you and tattoo you, even, whether you come down here or we go up there. Oh man, that would be so exciting, so much fun. I love people that I tattoo that like, we have these real times, like that's my favorite. And yeah. And I said a while ago, I made a decision to not do anything if it feels gross. And I really wanted to only tattoo people that I would have a meal with. And that's a really cool way. And thank you for reminding me of this, because that's a really cool way of just like knowing that every part of your day is going to be great, or even if it sucks, it's wild because I go from like the next great thing to the next great thing and I try to skip over the suck and it's like, dude, embrace the suck, and I take that away heavy from today, like big time heavy. So thank you for that. Matt.
No, thank you guys.
And dude, we will definitely catch up again. This is the moment where we give you a little bit of time to just go ahead and shamelessly promote whatever good things that you're into.
Now you know what? I'm an old fuddy-duddy. Just using that word tells you how old I am. But no, I mean, you know, if you're out there and you're watching and you know you think you may have OCD or been diagnosed with OCD and you're struggling, definitely hit up iocdf.org. You know, it's an amazing resource. You have a resource directory of clinicians, but just you can learn about OCD. You know, you can connect with individuals like myself. I'll actually plug one other thing. It's not my own thing, but there's a website called Treat My OCD, and it's an app called NOCD, NoCD.com, the NoCD app. They're changing the game on how OCD is treated. It's a phenomenal. Check it out on Apple Store and Google Play. They're not paying me to say that, although they should now after this. I'm call them. But
no, that's it. We gunning for it.
yeah, we're going after them. But no plugs. Just, you know, there's help, there's hope. You're not alone. You know, if I get better, you can too. And you know, just stay positive. There's resources out there. And you know, you can absolutely live a beautiful, serene, full. I always say full. Full is not happy. Full is everything. A full life. Absolutely.
Well, dude, I have to say, I don't know you, but I love you.
No, I was just saying the same thing to you.
Thank you so much, man. Really, I'm just kind of at a loss right now for how wonderful this whole experience was. Thank you a million times for setting this up. Great time. Guys, if you're watching, subscribe. More shit like this happens all the time. Appreciate you. Ethan, you are a lord. You're a king. You're a king. You're a giant amongst men. You're a giant amongst giants. So
I'm 5'6". Sorry to kill it. But...
Dude, we're gonna end it on that. Thank you so much. We're all rad, and so are you. Guys, we'll see you next time. And Ethan, thank you again so much, man. I can't thank you.
My pleasure.
You're amazing.
So are you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Have a nice night.
You too.
Take care, man.